You're on mute, Paige.
Sorry, something I always forget.
There you go. There you go. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Renew Your Spirit. I'm your moderator. I'm Lynn Gaffin. And today we have the honor of talking with Paige Morgan. Paige is a certified psychic medium from the Lisa Williams International School of Spiritual Development. She's a certified angel practitioner from Charles Virtue and an intuitive certified Reiki Holy Fire Master Healer from William Rand. And she's also a classical musician, which I think we will get into because I want to find a connection. So welcome, Paige, and thank you for being with me this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So it says here, before everything else, you were a classical musician.
Yes, still am.
Okay. Tell me how you got started in that and how it transitioned.
5th grade, started playing the oboe. You know, we got to pick instruments back then. My mom was a classical musician, violinist who pretty much gave it all up to get married. And she wanted all of her 3 kids to go into that field, but none of us did except me. And I just kind of followed that path for a long time. I was very active. I went into music as a music performance major at the University of Kansas as an undergrad. And then I went to the Eastman School of Music for my master's, all in oboe performance. And then I got my very first job in playing principal oboe in the Midland Odessa Symphony in Texas, and met my now husband there, who was playing principal percussion. Then we moved to Virginia and taught at the University of Virginia for 5 years, played in the Charlottesville Symphony, played in the Richmond Symphony, all of that. And then decided that my husband really wanted to get a master's degree. And I went back to Eastman and got a doctorate. He got a master's at Eastman. And from there, I got the job at Ithaca College, where I've been teaching until just very recently for 22 years as the oboe.
Oh my goodness. And the oboe is not an easy instrument to play.
We just tell people that.
Oh, okay. Well, it looks like it isn't. Now, how did you transition to the spirit world?
So I'm one of those people that always had, yeah, saw a lot of things, heard a lot of things as a child. My mother always apologized for me being such a sensitive child, but poo-pooed everything that I felt or thought, or, like, oh, I remember one time hearing things in my ears and she told me it was the trees moving outside. I mean, she was
Oh,
just that kind of person
yeah,
that really
yeah.
didn't believe in any of it. And come to find
Mhm.
out much later, when my grandmother died, my mom's mom, my grandmother was very involved in a lot of psychic stuff that I then found out she would constantly give money to this. My grandmother would give money to this organization in California that my mom was distraught over when she found out, and that kind of thing. So, like so many people, I closed it off. I learned to close it off. It was unaccepted. And I thought I was a little bit crazy.
Right.
So I went many, many years with just feeling stuff and not really knowing what it
Mm,
was, closing it all off. Went through a real alcoholic phase, which was for many reasons, not only that, but in retrospect, a lot of it was,
right.
what is all this stuff? And I didn't know what to do with it. Sometime around 2010, I think, is when things sort of started opening. One of my sisters invited me to, when I was visiting her, invited me to go see this psychic with her. And we did. And it was like, oh, this is so awesome. It was kind of a renewal of excitement for me. And so I think it was probably, again, like around 2012, I'm not sure. I went to a medium who lives not too far from me. And all of these things just started opening up. And she told me that she felt like I really needed to go to Lilydale, which is only a few hours from me. And she said, I really think you should go to this workshop with Lisa Williams and Sharon Klingler,
Mhm.
and so I said, okay, cool. I went home, I looked it up online, I signed up for it. I didn't really even read what it was. And this was a couple of months before this whole workshop. I'll never forget the night before the workshop, before I had to leave, I was reading the details, what do I need to take or what do I need to think about? And it said it was for advanced mediums only. And I just freaked out. I was like, I'm not a medium. I can't do this. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? But being a person who believes completely in things that come to you for a reason, I went. And I will never forget the very first workshop we did, where in this group, it was a 5-day workshop, but we were put in small groups of 6 people, where we had been, both Lisa and Sharon had talked about a lot of techniques and things to do. And all these things just started opening up for me.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the big event. There were a lot of smaller things before that, and a lot of things. I had started going to some workshops, and I went to Omega and did several workshops with Sonia Choquette and James von Prague, and like kind of building the interest. And then that particular workshop with those two was sort of like, boom, okay, everything kind of opened up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you gave it permission, and they're
Yeah,
standing at the door. And once you open the door, watch out.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's exciting. Yeah. Yeah. I noticed. I love Lisa Williams. I've been checking out some of her classes also online. Now you're a certified angel communicator.
Yeah, I did a week-long workshop in Sedona with Charles Virtue, which I just loved. I thought he and his wife taught the class, and I don't know, it was a small group. There were maybe 20 of us. So it was really awesome for I think it was 5 days actually, but we just dug in and got to do a lot of things. He approaches mediumship not so much a strict mediumship as um, ask the person sitting across from you who they would like to come in. And I found that refreshing in ways, because it took some of that pressure off. Like, you have to prove yourself all the time, which
Yeah.
of course we
Yeah.
do, and that's part of mediumship. But I just found like all these things came through when you're really connecting with angels and working with them. So I absolutely loved that. I find now when I do readings and things, I'm sort of pulling in everything. I don't like do an angel reading per se unless
Right.
somebody asks that. It's kind of whatever needs to come in, or in whatever ways I connect. That's what I do.
Now, how do you distinguish between an angel coming in and someone from the spirit world?
I think the angels feel very much on a higher vibration to me. And
Really?
I often see different angels in different colors.
Oh.
So, and that's probably because I learned what some of their colors are.
Mhm.
So if I can sort of feel that, and I think I directly, if I'm feeling moved when I'm working with someone to connect with an angel, I ask an angel to come in. So that's another way of differentiating.
Now, which angels do you work with specifically? I mean, are
Um,
they the lower level, or you get the archangels, or?
I think the archangels mostly. Yeah. And again, that's really what I learned, and that's kind of what I focus on a lot. So
Okay, yeah. Now, when you give a reading, do the people that you're reading for know that you're giving a reading from the angel side or from the spirit side?
I usually tell them, I'll
Okay.
usually say, this feels like I'm going to call in an angel, if that's okay with you, I'd like to work this way. So I'm pretty specific, or of saying, wow, and describing if it's a spirit or a crossed over loved one, that just has a really different feeling to me.
Okay.
So I just try to be really open with what I'm sensing, what I feel.
Now, when you're working with the angels, do you feel that you prove the continuity of life, or is it another level?
Say the first part again. Do I feel that I what?
Do you prove the continuity of life? Do you prove that there is life on the continuum?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I take that for granted. I think that's why
Okay.
the question threw me. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Do you explain when you're doing a reading what you're doing?
I do a lot. I think one of my issues in everything I've done in my life, and especially as a classical musician where everything has to be the way that it's supposed to be and perfect, has always been a real sense of self-doubt and insecurity. So that's something that I've really worked hard on through therapy and many other outlets. So I think part of when I do readings is just to be incredibly open and honest of, there are times, if somebody is sitting across from me and I'm hearing something, but it's so close to home or personal, I have to stop for a minute and say, wait, am I mixing any of my stuff in this?
Mhm.
And I'm always really open about that and say, okay, give me a minute because I'm feeling too close to this or very close to this subject. And I want to make sure this is not my stuff. So I feel like I just always try to be as open as possible.
Do you ever feel that when you feel like you have your stuff, that it's there for part of the reading?
Absolutely. You know what surprises me? It surprises me how few, if any, maybe one or two, like alcoholics, former alcoholics come through. And I just always think, because I went through this whole period of just drinking.
Mhm.
Wouldn't I relate to that so well, but not so much. So I kind of keep waiting for something along those lines to open up. Yeah.
Okay.
But I definitely think stuff comes through a lot, and I'm like, whoa, I think that was meant for me. I hope that was meant for you too, but I'm pretty sure that was meant for me.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun. Yeah. Now, tell me about your online business.
Well, I'm just getting it going. So I took an early retirement incentive from Ithaca College. With all the pandemic, they were offering. I'm actually a little too young to officially retire, but I had been a lot of things happened. So there were a lot of reasons that I took I took it, accepted it, applied for it, I should say. But I've been wanting for a while to have this sort of two-part business, in fact, for quite a few years. And I've been doing readings in a business, and I have an LLC and all of this for the last couple of years, like really professionally, but always with all of my teaching and performing and all that, I just never had
Right.
the time to really devote. So I kept hearing my guides, my spirit guides kept saying, take this, we're doing this for you, take this. Like I'll never forget when they lowered the age limit to what they allowed at Ithaca College for this retirement incentive. They lowered it, and you had to have over 20 years of teaching and be 55, I think. And it had been, you had to be 60 and teach over 10 years. So I'm 58. So I was like, when they lowered it, I was like, oh my gosh, I could actually do this. So I went for a walk. We live in the woods, and I went for a walk, and I'm like, oh my gosh, but I love my students, and should I do this? And I don't want to leave them, especially in the pandemic. And I right away, this voice is like, we're doing this for you. Take it now.
It's still scary.
Oh my
It's
God.
still scary.
Scary, but I came home from that walk. I went online and I did the application that they asked us to do. And, you know, within a month, because it was a long process, they got approved. And so I am stepping out on a limb here. So I'm sorry I went off on that, but the
That's
actual business, I have also been making gifts and things since as long as I can remember. And just fun things for family and friends, and kind of a variety of stuff. Like I would just, you know, one of my sisters has Great Danes, and she got a telescope and wanted a cover. So I made her a cover that looks like a Great Dane. I make a bunch of lamps, I make jewelry, I make collages. You know, it's just kind of, I really like to think about a person and kind of connect, not in an invasive way at all, but connect with their energy and ask for ideas to come in and then make them something. So I've been doing that forever, and that's this business. And I'm so close to getting the website done, but putting things in a store and setting all that up has proven a lot more difficult for me than I thought. So the business is called Tiger Soul Gifts, and Tiger Soul came years ago when I really connected with a power animal, which is the tiger for me.
Okay.
And I just decided, because I want my business to be very soulful and spirit, that I just named it Tiger Soul Gifts a few years ago. And the business is two parts. One is making gifts, okay, and the other is doing all the readings. So the website actually has, you know, buttons right at the beginning where you click on if you want the gift stuff, if you want the reading stuff. And so basically I have some things that are already made that people can buy. And I also then have just a really short thing of like, tell me about someone you want a gift for. I come up with a couple ideas, and then they can pay me to make the idea or say, thanks, see you later.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the premise of the business.
So when you do your readings, do you do them online, in person? Do you travel?
I've always done them in person. I had an office before COVID hit. And actually it was interesting because the lease was up in April, and I'd been feeling like I wanted something closer to home and different anyway than that office. It was a little farther away. So everything that I've done since COVID started in March has been online. But I love in person. I know a lot of people like online and really go that route all the time. But if I can actually be in a room with somebody, I really,
it's a different energy.
It's
a different energy. Yeah. Have you ever thought of having the people come to your home?
I did have them come to my home in the beginning. And honestly, Lisa Williams is such an advocate of not doing that just to be careful. And she tells some stories of when she used to do that and have people come to her home. You know, I'm kind of on the fence, because I really do feel like the spirit world brings us what we need and want.
Absolutely.
And you know, I do everything that I do, not in fear and in love, that it would be fine. And I'll probably, once we can open up our world again, we'll do that because I haven't even, especially now, not knowing how my financial situation is going to turn out since I quit my job. I will probably do that for a while as I see how things unfold.
Because I know I've had people come to my home and I find that I don't have any problem at all with that. I really prefer it.
Yeah. You know, my dream actually is to build a little extension onto our current house where the bottom floor is all the stuff I make and the top floor is where I do readings and stuff. And that could just be that space. That's
Mhm,
really
mhm.
my dream, but we'll have to see what happens with that.
Well, that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what, so you retired completely now?
I'm actually, so what they did at the college was I'm kind of on a terminal sabbatical this fall, and my official retirement date is January 1st. So then I will be, I always say though that because I'm too young to retire, I can't take Social Security, I can't do anything. I just kind of rephrase it as I actually quit. And I'm very grateful to the college for allowing me the retirement incentive.
Yeah.
Because there are some things that go along with it that are I'm very grateful for.
So that's when they give you the gold watch?
I hope not. I think with all the dire situation that most colleges are facing, no, that's not gonna happen.
So is your husband involved with your spiritual side?
He's not as much. He is also a classical musician. He's a percussionist. He is incredibly supportive of everything I do. And honestly, he's so intuitive.
Is he?
But it's not like for me, since everything opened up again, I can't get enough of learning. And oh my gosh, I've read I don't know how many books, and especially in the beginning of reopening kind of. And so he doesn't have that drive at all,
Mhm.
but he's incredibly supportive of me, which I'm so grateful. So
You ever read for him?
what?
Do you ever read for him?
I only have when I was doing some of the required hours to get certified with Lisa Williams, and his mother came through clear as day. And it was so interesting because it took me for a surprise because she was in this pink dress and she was dancing all around the room. And I finally realized what she was saying. I don't know why it took me a while. Is at the end of her life, she had lupus and she was born with diabetes. And she had had both of her legs
Okay.
amputated.
Yep.
And so finally I was like,
Yep.
oh my gosh, of course.
Yep.
She's showing now that she
Mhm.
doesn't have any of that. But otherwise, no, I don't really read for him. I don't know that I want to know anymore. It's kind
When
of like
you were teaching with this, were you ever able to intuitively work with your students?
yes.
Did that come into play at all?
It really did. I think in the biggest way, like I'm still a little paranoid and careful about not wanting to step into someone's energy that I'm not asked to do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I'm very careful about that. But I would always just ask for, what can you show me or give me that is okay? And so honestly, it helped so much because I could tell when a student walked through my door what was going on with them, and it really helped me with whether to be kind of a jerk that day, like you're not practicing and this isn't good, or to be, really like, okay, what's going on? Because you're clearly not doing this. So tell me what's going on. I always feel like I still feel this way, and I always felt this way, that teaching oboe, which I love, and I love playing, and I will continue to keep playing oboe because it's just a great way to be expressive, and I love the instrument. Teaching oboe always felt like the tool for which to really actually connect and help students. I have a lot of musician friends who are what I would call nerds, just oboe nerds. Like that's everything they live, breathe, and sleep and dream is oboe. And that has not been the case for me. I mean, I love it, but it's not, I have so many other things that I love doing and always have. For me, the whole teaching aspect was a way to connect with the student, take them from where they are in their life and in their playing, and help them open up all the obstacles in their way. So I think having the intuitive sense every single lesson of kind of where they were, or if something was troubling them, or asking for guidance of what would be most helpful to the student. Oh my gosh, absolutely what helped my teaching.
Did they know that you were connecting with spirit?
A lot of them did. Yeah.
Did they?
I didn't say, hey, I'm a psychic
Yeah.
medium. I don't know
Gee,
if that
why not?
I know. But it was interesting. I think a lot of like if I would connect easily with a couple of students, or a student would come in, even in their freshman year, and just say something that would trigger that sort of like, oh, cool, they're really into this. Well, then I can share it. Then, of course, in the college environment, it all spreads. I remember one time walking down the hall, and a non-oboist student who had been in one of my other classes I taught said, hey, Paige, somebody just told me you're a medium. Can I do a reading? Like out in everybody, like, not until you graduate. I was always really self-conscious, I think I never wanted, and still wouldn't cross that line between teaching and being their teacher and an oboe
Right.
teacher and all of that. And yeah, come on
Yeah.
over, let's do a reading. I just
Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But a lot of my students, and I love this about the college age students, they're just so open to
Yeah.
everything. They're just really like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything about that, but that's so cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And students who have showed me, and that they are really interested in spirit stuff, then I'm able to talk to them about it and to say, look, this is just where I am and what's been helpful to me, but to recommend some books, or whatever they feel, and whatever they ask, whatever they want.
How do you apply it to your Reiki practice?
Well, it's interesting because I didn't know that I was had intuitive feelings in Reiki. Gosh, when all of this started opening up again, I taught and performed at the Brevard, North Carolina Music Festival in the summers for, I don't know, it's like 16 years or something. And there was the wife of another musician who I got to know, and she's very connected to the spirit world. And she was actually doing some Reiki on me one time, and she said, Paige, I'm seeing this whole thing that your next step in life is to do Reiki and get certified in Reiki. And I was just like, okay. All right. So actually that next fall or something, I started investigating a little bit. I did the Reiki level 1 and 2 at the New York City Reiki Center for a 5-day training session. And in that class, and I'm so sorry, I can't remember the name of the man that ran that, but I really liked him. I need to look that up. He would, really observe all of us and stuff. And he came over to me once, and he said, you're feeling what that person's feeling in your body, aren't you? And I said, yeah, I really am. And I feel like I really credit him with encouraging me that was okay. And that was a good thing. And that I could then really focus more on what was going on. But I also, that was it, 5 days and you're done. And then you practice Reiki, for however many months before you can do the next level. And then a year later or something, I did then level 3 and 4, or the master level, with William Lee Rand in upstate New York. And he doesn't really teach the intuitive aspect, but I started realizing when we would practice on each other, like I remember this one woman, I kept feeling something in my stomach, and I kept going back to that with her and really working with the Reiki that way. And after we were done, she said, why did you keep going back there? And I said, I just kept feeling this sort of stuff in my own stomach. And she said, well, I just had my appendix out a couple of weeks ago, but I thought that I think it was a couple months earlier. She said, but I thought I had pretty well healed it. And I said, I don't know. I just felt a lot of stuff there. So I just kept sort of trying to clear that energy there. So that was really confirming to me of, okay, you need to start trusting this, and start feeling it. It also, quite honestly, made Reiki more meaningful to me, because I felt like, and I still feel this way when I do it, I really just open up, like we do with readings, and I could just, as I go around someone's whole body and put my hands on top of them, I could feel different things. And I would just really try to focus on what I was feeling in my body, and then go to those places to clear the energy.
Have you worked with your husband with Reiki?
I have done Reiki on him many times. He has a leaky aortic valve, which we've known about for a while, but I often just keep kind of trying to clear all of that with him. So yeah, definitely.
So he's definitely open to that too.
Oh yeah, he's like, could we do this? And sometimes I'm like, well, I was just waiting for you to ask. He said, well, I didn't want to bother you.
That's fun. Yeah.
It's kind of fun with Reiki. I mean, I haven't done it. I haven't done Reiki since the pandemic. But
Mhm.
what
Oh, yeah.
before that, I would also, that's one of the things that has sort of encouraged me to do what I would call kind of open readings to see what comes through. And the same with Reiki, spirits always come through. So when I'm doing Reiki on someone, I will absolutely feel whoever's there, I will feel their presence. And it's kind of cool because not only does that person is telling me things, it's always related somehow to what's going on in someone's body. I mean, obviously, right? So if you had some childhood trauma somewhere and you're still holding on to that
Yeah.
somewhere,
Yeah.
and one of their loved ones who they may have had a hard time with or something like that, or a good time with, comes through. I really like that aspect of
Mhm.
feeling
And
like,
do you
wow.
pass that on to your patient?
Yeah, I do. I ask them, I always say, do you want me to tell you everything that I felt in this session? And I've never had anybody say no.
Yeah.
So I absolutely pass that on.
Now, do you do that the same place where you do your readings?
Yes. So it's always in my office. Yeah. I
Okay.
just had a place to sit and do readings and then my Reiki table over here. So that's what I'll be looking for again post COVID.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. How do you get the word out?
Yeah, so far I've just been really word of mouth. I think again, being a college teacher and everything, I was just always careful. So it was just all word of mouth. And friends of friends and
Mhm.
a lot of, and then I worked with an osteopath in town. In fact, that's who I rented my space from. And she was good about putting the word out. I
Oh,
did,
nice.
there's a spiritual retreat center about a half an hour from where I live called Light on the Hill. And I did this 3-year program with them where you're with the same group of people for 3 years and you meet 5 weekends a year and you kind of, it's like dredging up all your childhood crap. But you deal with, what are some of your defenses and what's still going on. And
Mhm.
several people in that group and plus other years, not just my own, what we call my own classmates, have just been great about spreading the word. And so it's kind of being connected that way. So I know that I need to do a lot more when I really get my website finally done and get it up and running. And so I took Lisa Williams' psychic business course online,
Mhm.
which is all about you've got to do Facebook Live and you've got to do Twitter and you've got to
Right.
do this,
Yeah.
which I have such resistance to.
Yeah. Mhm.
But I know that I need to do that. So
Mhm.
that's in the game plan.
Mhm.
My
First
sole
of all,
focus.
you got to get your web page up.
That's right. And that's where my focus has been and my resistance. But I'm getting there. I'm really close. So
Yeah, because I noticed I went online to see where it was, and that's where it is. That's it.
yeah, it says coming soon.
Yes.
Hey, I was pretty proud of myself for getting that up.
Baby steps, baby
Yeah.
steps. Yes, yes, yes. So had your did your was your mother around when you started all of this, or has she well when
She has passed, but she was when I started all of this. But she had Alzheimer's, my mother.
oh,
She
okay.
died in 2015, I think it was 5 years ago, of complications from
Yeah.
Alzheimer's. And she had gotten really bad a couple of years before that and had it. Oh my gosh, I bet she had it 15 years without being diagnosed, except I always
Mhm.
suspected that she had it. My grandmother had Alzheimer's as well. But I'll tell you one of a life-changing experience with my mother when she was still alive was she was really hard on me. We had not a wonderful relationship because she wanted me to be who she thought I should be.
Oh
And
yeah.
therefore I didn't never know who I was as. So I really struggled. And I was doing a very deep meditation with a friend of mine was practicing a new kind of hypnosis meditation technique. And this was probably, I don't know, again, I kind of 2012, 2013 pops into my head, but it was around that time. And I went, all of a sudden, I'm in this meditation and I see my soul and my mother's soul facing each other. And we're on this beach because the ocean is my go-to. And we're facing, and I said to her, why have you always been so hard on me? And she said, because you asked me to be. And I have to tell you that my entire life changed in that moment because, I'm already feeling like we do a very broad sort of general roadmap of the things that our soul wants to feel or experience when we incarnate. But having it put in that perspective, it just like, I just felt like our relationship changed like that. Now she was in, her Alzheimer's was advanced. She always recognized my sisters and I, even to the very end. So it wasn't that way, but she also lived in a different state than I do. So I just felt all of this sort of angst and hardship and all my years of therapy that were so much about my mother, just like, oh my gosh, and that's still, I have a much better relationship with her now that she's on the other side.
I've heard that so many times.
It's so true. And every time I tell a story about her, I always hear her go, well, that's what she does. But when she was alive in human form, I really just always felt like she had a very young soul. Just the way she acted, and she was this emotional, sort of filled with emotional goo a lot of the time. But oh no. I feel exactly the opposite after that experience. And then when she crossed over, I don't feel that way at all. I mean, and who am I to judge whether she has a young soul? It wasn't trying to say, you have a young soul. It was just as a kid who struggles with the stuff with their mother, it was that kind of a feeling. But I really realized that all of those hardships she did for me, because it kind of forced me to go into therapy. I feel like now I'm a strong woman because of my mother, and I thank her all the time. So especially when she does, then I was like, sorry, Mom. Sorry, I love you.
Now, does she come back very often?
She does anytime I want her to. Yeah.
Really?
And it's a lot. Sometimes my mother loved frogs. And she had like, oh my gosh, her house was filled with frog things. And it's just so funny sometimes how, if I haven't thought of her for a while, or if I am thinking about her, all of a sudden I'll see some frog, either a real frog in the summer or a frog thing, or, but I love the way she's there. If I just say, hey, Mom, then she's like I can feel her in my heart.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely.
Now, what about your father? Was he at all interested?
I never knew. My dad died when I was 24.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
He was 54, but he comes through a lot. And that reading I had with a medium that and she told me to go to Lilydale. My dad came through for quite a while there.
Really?
And I remember very vividly asking the medium, like, should I start finding a teacher? Should I, blah, blah, blah. And she started laughing and said, your dad just said, what's wrong with me?
Great.
So my dad's energy is really, really gentle and really soft, like mild. My mom is like, no, you have to listen to me. And my dad is, I feel like he's always present when I want him to be. It's just a very different kind of energy. But he was the director of engineering for a big government corporation that made parts for atomic missiles. Or weapons, I should say. And he was a Presbyterian lay minister. He went to seminary and did all this. So I always thought that was like, whoa, Dad, this is weird. But we never got to talk about any of this because I hadn't opened up again yet at all. But I definitely feel his presence now. So that's really good.
Now, have you ever been to a spiritualist church?
Yes, I have. Well, I have to say Lilydale. I've done a lot of stuff at Lilydale.
Okay.
Not just training, but gone and just, gone to stuff.
Yeah. You mentioned your sisters. Are they open to this? Have they had their own experiences?
Yes, they have. And it's really interesting. My older sister is very into this, not in this, again, in the same way that I am. So she's not pursuing it, but she's very open. In fact, I think the time that we both realized that we were both interested in kind of psychic stuff was about 4 or 5 years before my mom died, or longer, I don't know. She fell down the stairs in her house and she had a very severe brain injury.
Mm.
And we, both sisters and I and my husband spent Christmas in the ICU with her. And when I drove, my husband and I just jumped in the car. It was right before Christmas. We drove, straight to get to my mom. And my husband stayed at their house, my sister's house, with her husband, and my oldest sister and I went to the hospital, and we're sitting there, and my mom is, of course, all hooked up to everything and unconscious. And my sister suddenly says, I got to tell you, when they first brought mom up here, she had a seizure. And she said, and there were all sorts of people in this room, and they weren't all nurses and doctors. And I looked at her and I said, wait, what? And we hadn't really talked about it till then. And when we both realized, like, oh my gosh, tell me about it. So we definitely connected on that level. She can hear things a lot. She'll hear. One time I remember her talking about, she went into a room of hers and kept hearing singing or something. And she went in her house and said, what? And she told me if she heard them say, oh, honey, we don't mean to scare you. We're just here. And she was really into, I forget who's the medium who died till we would go, Sylvia. What was her last name?
Sylvia Brown.
Yeah, Sylvia Brown. She kind of got interested years and years ago just through that. So she hasn't pursued it like I do. In fact, last time it was over a year ago when I was at her house, she asked me to go up into this sort of open room they have, because this tablecloth kept getting pulled off of the table and she always just felt weird. And I went up there and it took like 1 minute to realize that is an ancestor hangout room. I could see my aunt, actually, who my mom's sister who died 2 years ago, I could see her sitting in her chair. It was her chair reading. And they just liked the space up there, but one of them did not like that tablecloth. So she's really open to all of that. My middle sister is really, really interested in it and is always like, that's so cool. Again, neither of them have pursued it like I have, but they're both really, really open to it, it's really cool.
It's in the family.
Yeah, it totally is in the family.
Yeah, and I have heard that it's kind of an ancestral thing that, if you've got it, someone down the line has had it, and that,
Well, that's what's so cool about finding all this stuff in my grandmother's stuff, and apparently my grandmother had, I don't know, like 8 brothers and sisters or something, but 2 of her sisters were also very much into the same organization that she was. So that's pretty cool. I always thought one of those aunts was really weird. And now I realize as a little kid, I really think that she was just always really open to everything around her. So I always like, I wish I had made this off,
When you play your music, I mean, do you ever just go someplace sometime or and just kind of play your music and zone out?
Oh, often. Yes. I started to say always, but it's not always, but it is so often. I think that's the really cool connection. I think music for me, and there's something classical music it's 2 things. When I'm in the middle of an orchestra, because I've done a lot, especially at the Brevard Music Center, you play with this 90-piece faculty orchestra, and the oboe is kind of right in the middle, and you're just surrounded by, you play the slow movement of a Mahler symphony, and even in there where you're having to be so careful and do the right thing and not miss notes and all that, it's so transcending. I remember at that same music festival doing, I'm sorry, I forgot which opera it is. I don't think it was Madame Butterfly. We were doing an opera, and the conductor at the end, who was so passionate and musical, was just crying, and all of us in the pit were just trying to play and crying.
Oh my goodness.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
So it definitely, not just even that. I remember playing the minister, one of the ministers who married my husband and I died of pancreatic cancer years and years ago. And they asked me to come play at his funeral. And I did, and I don't remember any of it. I mean,
Oh,
I was, I was, it was not me playing, you know. So
mhm,
I
mhm,
totally felt like
mhm,
something else was playing through me,
mhm.
and I wasn't open up again, you know, yet at that
Yeah,
point. So I feel like music in any form, whatever your form of music is, for me, it just happens to be classical music, is so transcending. And so when you really allow yourself to just be in that space of how glorious the music is,
yeah.
you know, and you can, I think practicing is practicing, and I practice hours a day. But when you feel really good about what you're playing, then you can just let go and feel, you know.
Do you ever feel it helps to bring in the spirits?
I don't think I've ever looked at it that way. I think I feel more like it's just a part, like they're always,
Mm,
that is always there. I do know, maybe it's a little bit different than your question, but because of my struggles with self-confidence, then some performances would just be like, oh my God, am I going to do, you know, and I would just always ask for, you know, loved ones or spirit to come in and just hold me. So I would
mhm,
imagine myself
mhm,
on stage, especially like solo recitals or whatever, imagine myself on stage with some of my ancestors just holding me. And that,
right.
invaluable.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yep, yep, yep. When you prepare for a private reading or that, do you ask for the spirits to come in or do you just assume they're there?
I totally ask. I think that's part of Lisa Williams' training of, you know, she has a whole thing that she says before she does a reading. I have my own,
Mhm,
but it's really asking for, you know, I have a very crazy mind, like so many of us do. In fact, I named my chatter Dolores. And I actually first have to picture her in bed. I put her to bed and I pull the covers over her head. So first I kind of clear my mind as much as I can, and then
mhm,
totally ask for anything, any spirit, any guidance that would be the most beneficial to the person across from me to
mhm.
please come in, help me stay open, help me just, you know, whatever that person needs, please to come through for them. So I definitely do. And in my office, I would go at least a half an hour before a reading and just really get into that place of meditation, plus trying to raise my vibration, um, and ask for guidance. Absolutely.
Have you ever had someone come in and they were totally blocked?
They were totally blocked.
Mhm.
The person come in or the person across
No,
me?
the person that you're reading for.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, even, you know, I've had a couple of people I felt, you know, that feeling when you do a reading, it just doesn't feel that great
Yeah.
afterwards. Yeah. Even people who seem or who say they are
Oh, yeah.
in, um, yeah, I find that really hard. I just try to keep going. I remember a recent reading felt that way to me, and I tend to linger on things like that. And I just kept saying, I just have to say to myself, look, whatever came in, even if it didn't feel like much or it didn't feel right or whatever that is, I just have to trust spirit, because I'm letting go and asking for spirit to guide this whole
Mhm,
process,
mhm.
that that's what that person needed. So yeah, I don't like that. I remember when I was
No.
first getting into readings and I was practicing on a lot of people. And one of my friends said, "Oh, come to this house. They have a couple of friends and you can practice on them." Well, one of them was like, "What is this crap?" You
Yeah.
know? But there was still a couple of really significant things came in that shifted her maybe a tiny
Mhm,
bit, you know.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah, that's just icky. I just try to keep saying, "Come
Yeah.
on, you got to help me out more here
Yeah.
because this is really hard."
Are the ones that you're reading for and they say, nope, nope,
Oh yeah.
nope,
Oh
nope. It's like,
no.
hey.
Or the look on their face sometimes is just like, really?
Yeah.
It's so hard, especially
I
somebody
believe now.
oh, I know. You know, it was really great with Lisa used to always say, look, if it's a horrible reading, give them their money back. You know, if you feel like nothing you did or you couldn't get what you
Right.
wanted to get or you didn't get anything, who cares? Just give them their money back. Just do that. And
Yeah.
I thought, yeah. But it is always sort of a comfort to feel like, you know what?
Right.
I
Yeah.
feel bad about this because you're blocked or whatever, and it just doesn't feel right. Here's your money. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
If you're not gonna play by the rules, go home.
yeah. And
You
why are
know,
you even
it's
here?
like, why are you here?
That's it.
Yeah.
I always think.
Have you ever had anybody that you were not able to read for at all?
I don't think so.
Mm,
No, I think it's more of wanting more information and not always getting it.
yeah.
That whole thing about names,
Oh, yeah.
sometimes I get names clear as
Mhm.
day, and most times I
Yeah.
don't.
Yep.
And I haven't really figured that out because I still feel like I just ask, can you please tell me your name?
Yeah.
The spirit's like this.
Yeah,
Hey,
I don't think. Yeah,
you're
I don't
here,
think
you
so.
gotta
Not
figure it
today.
out. Think, wait a minute, you're here. You want to communicate with this person. Why wouldn't you want to give that?
I
I don't know. I have found out though a few times, and I'm sure you have too, that some of that is that was their personality in life. So it actually often adds to the reading.
Right. Yeah. 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 It's like, they still want to be proven, do
Right.
it without my name. Go ahead. I
I
dare
know.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not going to show you anything. Okay, this is fun. But, I think early on, I was reading someone and there was a man who came through, but I could see the whole kind of living room and there was this hallway behind. And he was standing back in the hallway with his arms crossed and his legs, and he wouldn't really come forward and say anything. So I said, okay. So I told the woman this, and she just started laughing and said, yep, that's my father. That actually was really good that was early on in my doing this because it really gave me confidence of what everybody
Yeah.
said. Everything is
Yeah.
part of reading.
Yeah.
So trust
Yeah.
it. So that
Yeah.
was helpful.
And you need the validation. You really need the validation. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Geez. Have you ever done gallery readings?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Any of that? I don't know. I don't. It's interesting because, I teach classes. I've taught classes with 60 kids. I'm very comfortable in front of people.
Mhm.
I don't know. It doesn't interest me that much yet. Maybe it's just I'm not there yet. I don't know. But no, gallery and what does Lisa call the readings? She has courses on it. I'm really comfortable at the moment with one-on-one.
Yeah.
I just feel like I can be more sincere and more instead of just like, bam, now I have this person who does this and who's this belong to and that. I love, again, I'll say it again, the personal connection.
Mhm, mhm,
So
mhm.
maybe it will change. I don't know. But right now that's where I am.
So how long are your readings?
I do an hour.
Do you?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, if someone comes in and you give it a reading, can you automatically then transfer into a Reiki session or an angel session, or is it just strictly?
Again, I think it depends more on what they want and what I sense. So I have done sessions where someone comes in for a mediumship reading, but then where I have felt moved to say, let's go over here and let me do some Reiki on this because I'm feeling the need for some energy to be moved this way.
Oh, good.
Um, and then I think really I'm shifting more into, and I don't know if I'll keep it this way, but right now I'm shifting more into really just two kinds of readings, which are a reading where it can be psychic or mediumship or whatever, and angels come through, excuse me, or a Reiki session where all of that comes through.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of playing with that a little bit. Of course, again, I can't do the Reiki right now, but it's, I mean, I could do long distance Reiki, but
Right. Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
much. So I'm kind of just seeing how that feels and how that whole thing works.
Mhm.
Kind of just combining and seeing what comes what comes out. If
Yeah.
a person is there and they really want a psychic reading and then that's all they want, I will do that. I swear that somebody always comes through. So
Yeah.
I add that in as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yep. 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 Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. I've noticed that, and I think it's that same thing with everyone, that we change, we evolve, and
Yeah.
nothing, we're not the same as we were when we first started out, and our guides change as
Yeah.
we go along too,
Right.
because it's like going to school. You get a different teacher as you graduate,
Yeah. Yeah.
so do you have you met your guide?
Oh yeah. So my my main guide, who is still with me, but he's definitely in the background more
Mhm.
these days. He looks just like Sirius Black in the Harry Potter movies.
Okay.
And I have to
Oh,
say,
I'm sorry about that.
no, I actually love those movies, so it makes
Yeah, I
perfect
did too.
sense that that's how he would show himself to me, right?
Yeah.
Um, about 2 years ago or so, I was on a retreat and I was journaling, and all of a sudden, this other guide came through. His name is Abu. He's a cross between Indian and Chinese,
Okay.
but he talks very much like an Indian with that kind of accent, which is also one of my all-time favorite accents ever. So it makes sense that that's how he would come to me. But those two and my tiger, and then I have my guardian angel who I met many years ago in a dream. Her name is Tippy. Figure that one out.
Mm.
They're kind of my group, that and what I often do when I work with them or need guidance, or besides journaling and asking questions and then just writing down what I imagine the five of us together sitting very close in a garden by a beach. There's always an ocean, and just really feeling their presence and asking their guidance and love and help. And that.
Mhm. Well, that's nice. It's nice to know that they're there and be able to pick. I've never met my guides. I have no idea who they are. You know.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And somebody will say, "Well, don't you want to?" I don't really care.
As long as somebody's
As
there.
long as they start bringing, as long as they give me the information, I don't care who you are.
Right.
As long as somebody can identify it, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. No, I would kind of like to, just kind of out of curiosity, but I've never.
Yeah, the first time I met, well, the tiger, when I met the spirit animal, was listening to a shaman meditation kind of thing. And where whoever it was, Sandra Ingerman or something, was saying, here's how to meet one of your spirit animals if you want. And it was this whole thing of, pretend there's this huge opening in a huge tree and go through it, and then just ask to come out somewhere. And wherever you come out, ask your spirit animal to greet you.
Oh, nice.
And I did that, and I imagined this, and I kind of went up through this thing, and it opened up into this beautiful, just like foresty land. And there was this tiger like right in front of me.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, oh, how cool. So that tiger is with me all the time. I can feel the tiger just like laying on me.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
so with my spirit guides, it was also in one of the many workshops I did, and I don't remember who it was. I'm sorry, I'd give them credit, but I don't, where they said, try this to meet your guides. Imagine a house anywhere you want it. Like, what's your thing? So again, here's an ocean, but here's also woods, because I love both. And
Mhm.
imagine yourself walking through the woods. You come to this house, and you're going to knock on the door and ask that whoever opens the door, that's one of your spirit guides, that you can meet them. And I did that, and there was Sirius Black. And so he said his name was Peter. So I started working with him. And a couple months later, somebody else had a different way of doing it. And I thought, well, let me just see if it's the same guy
Mhm.
or whatever. And it was, imagine yourself in some space, and far, far away, you see just some figure. You can't put them into focus. And they walk closer and closer and closer to you. And as they walk closer, start noticing their features. What do they look like? And when they get right next to you, ask them their name. And it was exactly the same guy.
Really?
Yeah. So I often use those two kind of examples or meditation for people who say they'd like to meet their guides. And as I was told, it can take a number of times to do that. We don't know the reasons why we don't always meet them, right? So, but that's what I did, and that's what worked for me. But then my other guide, Abu, that was just like, bam, who are are you? You know?
Well, that's nice. That's good. That's good. I know. Like I say, people have said, well, don't you know who your guides are? No, not really. I don't really care.
Yeah.
But I think that's great if you can.
Yeah.
I just haven't been able to.
The first psychic I went to, I had been reading about spirit guides, and I said to her, I'd really like to meet my guides. And then she named, there were like 5 or 6. She said, boy, you really want to meet them because there's all kinds of them coming through. None of the names and none of the guides really felt quite right to me. And then it was later somebody said, well, just do it yourself. Just do your own thing. So I think that whole thing of wanting to meet them was things that I had heard or read, and then that experience. So I think that's why it was something that I had wanted, and then eventually opened up for me.
The only one I've ever been able to meet, now that I think of it, was I work occasionally with the Akashic Record.
Oh yeah.
And in my course that I took, they said to ask to meet your guide and then to go into the record. So I met a guide, and he said his name was Henry with a PH.
Huh.
So I have no idea what his name is. I just call him every time I see him. I say, well, hello, Henry with a PH.
I love that. Love it.
But I don't know if it's because I wouldn't be able to understand what his name is or what it is, but that's what works for me. And with the PH, he's always there. Yeah.
And that's what matters, right?
Yeah.
I did a workshop on the Akashic Records too. I think I've done most workshops on most things. And I never felt quite open enough or something to it. I did a past life regression workshop with Brian Weiss.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I don't know. I love doing the past life regressions. And the best thing about the workshop was that we got to do so many.
Yeah. Well, with Brian Weiss, I mean, you can't get any better than that.
The problem for me was that there were so many people. It was at Omega, and there were so many of us that it didn't ever really feel like, we didn't even practice on each other. We practiced when he would demonstrate and do things, which was great.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot, and I learned the techniques of how to do it. It's funny, of all the things you do and learn and you do workshops on, of then what ends up that you're most called to. So
you can't do everything. You can't do everything. There is so much out there.
Yeah, think of all the things we don't even know about.
Which is one of the reasons I started this, because I wanted to find out more about everything else out there. Like, I always say, like Shakespeare said, there's more things in heaven and earth.
Oh, I couldn't.
And oh my gosh, so this is that's the reason that I started this whole thing. In fact, it came to me one night when I couldn't sleep, which is most nights.
Yeah,
but
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, I was laying there trying to get to sleep, and all of a sudden I saw this whole thing.
Oh, neat. That's great.
So I thought, okie doke.
Okay.
So, that's where it all started. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I think so. So anyway, Paige, your website, should you get it finished?
It will be. Actually, my goal is to finish it this weekend. I'm not going to say I'm finishing it this weekend, because it doesn't always work out that way.
I know.
The problem too is that I'm trying to make things because I still want to have a number of things made. So trying to divide my time plus, just living life. Yeah, that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
I'm impressed. Absolutely. I'll tell everybody. It's Paige Morgan, tigersoul.com.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to get my name in there and the company. I don't know if that's a great name or not, but for now, that's what it is.
You can always change it.
Right.
You can always change it. You have the option.
And I bought like every domain name close to that, so change it to whatever. That was Lisa Williams' suggestion,
Oh gosh, this has been fun. I'm so glad you signed up. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I just appreciate it so much.
And we'll be watching for your webpage, Paige Morgan, tigersoul.com.
Yes.
I'm really interested in seeing what you got.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Paige.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Take care. Stay well.
Thanks. You too. Stay safe. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.